Welcome to this an amazing event, and welcome to you all. I'm absolutely delighted that you are all here. This is a momentous occasion for me, and I really appreciate all of you from across the world. And I know that I haven't met all of you before, so I welcome absolutely totally new to me is Michelle and Virginie and Alina. Yes, I haven't met you before, so thank you for arriving in this moment of time, September the 28th, 2020. Wow, what a world we have to create our future together. Now, you might note that we call this a women-only group, and you might have noticed sneakily there is a gentleman here. I'd like to introduce, I would like to introduce Philip Palmer. Yes, I'm recording, yes. Philip and I have worked with Corporate Heart International, firstly as Corporate Heart Limited in the UK since 1999. I think we met in 2000. The journey from there to here has been amazing. But the reason I have invited him here, apart from keeping me in order, and hopefully all of you, is that he knows as much about the gender dynamics intelligence approach to how men and women understand each other and value each other. He's my second in the knowledge base of this tool. And I wanted to share some of that with you, but also gain some awareness from all of you about where we are as women today. And one of the things, it came to me the other day, there's so much talk about women empowerment, isn't there? Actually, I'd like to rephrase that as women empower men. Take the T off the N. The time has come that we really must make sense of everything that is happening around us. Now, last Monday, and Philip was with me again, we had, I think it was 19 men who came from all parts of the world, from Australia, Pakistan, Europe, UK, US, Central America, and Canada. Now, today we've got a really lovely spread as well. We have Kate, who's here from Manila, and it's 11 p.m. there, and Sue Hyler, who's from Kuala Lumpur, who I think is trying to get back in on the screen. And we would have had a lovely friend of mine, Donna Thompson from Canada, but she had to go off to an emergency medical appointment for her husband. And I reflected on the fact that that was really obviously a family emergency and correct, but it's something that we women do in a sense that we care very much for our families and that those choices come up first. But we all are here, I hope, to share how we can create what I call real synergy. So I use the word real synergy. So it's about authentic, genuine understanding of what it is we need to do in order to create not a merger or a takeover, but a sense of community with men. Because as we know, I hope we all do, that men and women are different. We're also human beings, so we're all the same in terms of being human beings, but we are different. And the reason for having a separation at this point is to ask some key questions about how we perceive each other before we delve into how we communicate, how we operate, how we do things together. So I get a lot of people who say we need to get beyond gender differences and all be the same. I don't agree. I think we are all uniquely, fantastically different. And I think you'll all agree that women are not all the same, as indeed men are not all the same. But there are some deep differences where when we come together, male and female, masculine and feminine energy, it is what will change the world, and the future that we now face and the unknown has to be different. And I hope you all agree with that. You wouldn't be here if you didn't think that was a possibility. And what that is I'm not actually necessarily supposing I know the answers. So one of the keys to today is what's lurking behind me on the corner there. I want to explain a few concepts and then to get you talking about them and understanding the core map that I have, which I feel will help us understand each other. Now, some of you know this map, some of you don't. So those who do, I'm going to share it by actually physically drawing it. But I want you to think about if you can just use your imagination and go out into the future, what is that ideal scenario where we don't have arguments about who's right and who's wrong, where we don't have this is better, this is, men are better than women or women are better than men or whatever, that we actually have is coming together. And we'll all have a different perspective on what that means. So what I'd like to do is, in a moment, I'm going to ask you a question. At that point, I'll get each one of you to say one word, and I'm going to ask the question. But I will just invite Philip to say hello so that you're aware of why this gentleman is with us this afternoon. Philip, do you want to say hello?
Hello.
Hi, Philip.
And he will explain more about himself when we get into the map, okay? So Suhada is sending us right now. Just as a point of logistics, I hope you all know how to use the chat box on this system, and I will invite any of you to write anything that you like in the chat box. Be nice, but do write your details so that everybody knows who is here today. Okay, and we'll use the chat box as a way of creating the, we don't have time for everybody to explain their life history. I want more about your experiences of what we're talking about. Okay. So my first point, and I think Yvette is here, not on video. Is that right, Yvette? Can you write to me in the chat box?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. So Yvette is listening in, but she's not on a screenshot. So welcome to Yvette, who's in America. No, sorry, Yvette, where are you?
In Bahamas.
The Bahamas. That's fantastic. Great. So we've got another stretch of continents and places. So one of the things I want to just draw to attention is this picture on the back wall here. I hope you can see there are 3 arrows. And this is very simply my philosophy that shares everything I do in my life with you. The first arrow here, you can see this rather strange little creature, that's each one of us. So the first arrow of this value creation cycle is that each one of us is really important. And I know that you all know that because you're here and you've taken time out of your day. But the value of who I am and you are as women, Philip as a man obviously, but as a human being is getting to know ourselves. Now, all of you are at a heightened level of awareness. I believe you ought to be wise women. A, I wouldn't have invited you, and B, the friend who invited you wouldn't have invited you. So we are all what I consider wise. We are conscious. We are aware that there are things to deliver in this world. The second arrow, the blue arrow, is about all our relationships in our life. So you see there's lots of people down here. That's every single relationship you've ever had with your children, your mother, your father, your brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, colleagues, clients, etc. It may be even external relationships you have with people in the public arena who don't actually know, but you feel you have a relationship with. And then the third arrow, the red one, is about our world. It's about our community. It's about whichever community you're in. And the value creation cycle tells us that we're important. So the classic, which is the mask on the aeroplane, we have to put it on ourselves first. We have to look after ourselves in order to give to others. And the reason I really want us to focus on this is that women are known for their giving, for their looking after others, for providing service, nurturing, taking care of the community. That's not that men don't, but that we do it in a different way. But the value cycle says that as women, we need to understand our true value. And considering that there are 50% of the world that's female, as we all know, and we still don't have equality in positions of power, and in every part of our world, we know that women are still marginalized on lots and lots of very, very difficult and challenging and violent issues. So what is it that we can do as wise women to really make a statement? And then as we listen to the wise men who have come together starting last week, how can we respond to the differences? Now, some of you, I hope, will have watched the video from last week, but I do invite you to do that at some point, because there's some very, very interesting comments from these wise men who want to be working with us, creating real synergy and creating a world which is the world that we all want to inherit, a better world. So I would like to start now with asking you 2 questions, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, if I can work out how to do this, I'm going to, or you can do it for me. If you everybody unmute themselves so that you are straight onto the sound. So I'm going to ask you a very simple question, and I'd like you to answer for me with your name, where you are, and the one word. So this is going to happen twice, but the first word is, wait for it. How do you describe women in one word? So I'm going to invite Dawn.
Hey, I'm Dawn. I'm in Essex, which is in the southeast of England, and I've worked with women all of my life, and I was a midwife, and an educator. And my one word, because of those experiences, is courage.
Courage. Thank you. Tammy.
I'm Tammy, and I'm from fabulous Las Vegas, 2nd generation born and raised. Can I use a hyphenated word?
Yes.
Force of nature.
Force of nature. Thank you. Susie, you're the next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Susie. I'm currently living in the Cotswolds in England, but normally I would be in Spain. That's interesting events in the world are preventing me from going out there. I would call women, I'm going to hyphenate as well, multidimensional.
Multidimensional. Thank you. Aline.
Hi, I am Alina, and I'm in Bucharest, Romania. I am working since 2001 with men and women, a lot of people. I was working in retail, so I connected with a lot of people. I will define woman as sensitivity.
Sensitivity. Thank you very much, Alina. Virginie.
Hi, Virginie from New York City. If the question is who are, or what is the word that describes women who they are, I would say nurturing, which the word could change if the question was who do they long to be?
No, well, whatever the word is for you.
Of who do,
well, nurturing is,
the question is always super important. So the words can either tell who do we want to be, who do we think we are. And I think the answer, I mean, if the question is who do you think we are, I would say nurturing.
Okay, fantastic.
It's not the same as some of the other words that I've heard, which is more around who do we long to be or want to be.
Okay, Georgina.
Inspiring.
Inspiring.
And yes, I'm Georgina from Wales and wear multiple hats, but my word for women would be inspiring.
Yes. And Runa.
Yes, I'm Runa, presently in Los Angeles, and the word that came to me is earth or earthy. I feel we are really representing Mother Earth.
Earthy.
Mhm.
Thank you. Angela.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Migliaccio, and I live in the Bay Area in California. For me, is divine as the divinity of the goddess.
Thank you. Bastianella.
Hello, everyone. I really appreciate being here this evening. I'm in Bucharest, Romania, and my word would be grace.
Grace. Thank you, thank you. And my next one, Michelle. Michelle, welcome. We haven't met before.
Yes, I'm in Los Angeles, like Runa, and Runa's just down the road. I think it was Dawn said courageous, so that word's gone. And then grace was my second word. So let me think. I'm going to say versatile.
Versatile.
Meaning they're very flexible.
Yes, thank you.
Adaptable.
Yes, thank you. Kate in Manila.
Loving. Oh
Loving.
gosh, that's mine.
Okay, and Sue Hyla, can you hear me? What's your one word?
I choose compassion. Sue Hyla from Malaysia, yeah.
Compassion. Thank you. Rebecca.
Yes. I was thinking a chameleon.
Chameleon. And Yvette.
I'm thinking a few of my words were taken too, but one word that I was thinking about that I was debating was powerful, and not from the standpoint of power as we see it in the world today, but this intrinsic power that comes from within.
Okay, that's fabulous. And have I covered every female here? Yes. So Philip, what's your one word for women?
Flowing.
Glowing. Thank you. Okay, quick fire round again, same order. How would you describe men? Dawn. One word.
I don't know. It's a tough one to choose, but I think I'd probably describe them as confused.
Okay. Tammy.
I'm sorry, questioning.
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 Okay. Susie.
Lost.
Lost. Alina.
I would say strength.
Strength. And Michelle, Virginia.
Protectors.
Protectors. Georgina.
Questing.
Sorry?
Questing.
Questing, yes.
Questing. And Runa.
Oh, you've muted.
Muted.
She's
Unmute.
still
Keep
muted.
yourself unmuted at the moment.
I got the same as Virginie, which is protectors. Let's just change that to space holders.
Space holders. Right. Okay. Angela.
Rankers, like creating ranks and hierarchies.
Oh, rankers.
Yes.
Okay. Bastianella.
Result oriented.
Result oriented. And Michelle.
Focused.
Sorry, focused?
Focused. Focused.
Focused. Kate.
You know, what comes to mind is more like a roll of chocolate. It's hard on the outside and soft on the inside.
Like
One word, okay. Okay, Suhaila, one word.
Oh, okay. In a different way, they actually motivate me to move forward in a different way. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's a motivation.
Okay, they're motivators. And Rebecca?
Supportive.
Sorry?
Supportive.
Supportive. And Yvette?
I would say diverse.
Diverse. Philip?
Outrageous.
Nice.
Pauline, can I change my word to vulnerable?
Absolutely.
I see men as very vulnerable.
Okay, if they feel they're vulnerable, we can add that on. Now, what is really interesting is, and I'm sure you felt that, you felt the tonality of all those words. And in fact, some of these words turned up on the men's list last week, but and many not. But one of the things I thought was interesting is you described to begin with, confused, questioning, lost for men, but then, strong, protector, questioning, rankers, result oriented. There's some different energies in that. And with the women's list from men last week, there were lots of words around nurturing and feminine and empathy and compassion. So when we look at these words, there's not to critique them. As one of the things about this session is, in order to have a magical conversation in which real synergy will arrive, is to have it with no judgment, no anger, and no coercion. Those are the simple rules of a magical conversation. So for those who haven't come across this before, we're coming to this with our experience. So all your words are personal, but there's a collective energy to them. And to Eugenia's point, is this how we are or how we want to be? I think it's a mix of that. It's what it is and what can be. What we are is we are different to men in the baseline. So I've run this exercise many hundreds of times, and always there's this tonality difference when you ask men to describe themselves, and Philip would probably concur with this. Last week when we asked the men the men's list, and then we asked them about women, there was this, and it was almost that pause when I said, how do you describe men? It was like, it's that other species. We've got to think about that. It's okay. This is my point really, in the sense that all of this is okay. It's about honoring our differences at one level and knowing that at another level we're all the same because we're human beings. The separation of that energy for me is really important because we're all going around this cycle. So if all of us know ourselves, when we get into the blue arrow, then we're starting to be sisters to sisters, sisters to brothers, men to women, women to women. And I suppose my challenge is, where are the blind spots? Because we as women haven't still empowered men out of their confusion. I interviewed 55 men a year ago about it was before COVID, but in reflection of some of the Me Too issues. And I asked them, how do you think men are? And one of the biggest words was confused about what women want. So not necessarily confused about themselves. They were going, well, we know ourselves, we know what it is, but we don't know what women want. So if we then see men as confused, there's a confused conversation. So one of the things for me is there's no such thing as a difficult person. Do you agree with that or not?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so there are hundreds of people in our lives who've maybe give us difficulty because we're difficult, but there's no such thing as a difficult person. It's a difficult situation. And what we need to do is to find a way to develop a new narrative where we understand ourselves and we understand the sisters in our lives and the men in our lives. Okay. So I'd like to just share very quickly the map, and I'm going to draw it on here. And for some of you who've seen this before, but as I draw it, I just want you to think about not necessarily be decisive about this absolutely where you are. I want to introduce you to some archetypes and to give you a choice. Now, it doesn't mean you only have a choice of one, but in this example and time period, we want to get some sense of that. And Philip will share also where he is on the map as helping us to understand how we develop a new narrative, which is, for me, away from arguments and destroying each other to a place where we really value that we are different. So I'm going to draw women. I hope you can see that. Oh, let me just put it this way. Maybe, can you see that? Anyway, if you're drawing it on yourself, you've got a circle with an F in. That stands for female. And females work in a very circular way. We had some reference to, you know, multidimensional nurturing. Nurturing is a very circular process. So everything we do is hormonal. We are women who are nurturers, and we express our emotions by building relationships. Now, we all know that, so I'm not teaching you anything you don't know, because you're all advanced in this area. You work with women, you work with men and women, you know all this. What I'm putting it in a different context is, if all women are in there, the men are not in there. So men are actually in a square imagery. I'm not saying they're in a box. I'm talking about square imagery that we can use to understand conversations that get blocked. And this all came from my own experience of trying to understand myself as a very logical mathematician and a construction kind of person when I was a kid. And also I realized when I was in the image world in the 90s that my body shape was a certain shape, and it indicated a reference to behavior. So if all men are in the square and all women are in the circle, how does that help us? Well, it helps us because we need to put another circuit around it. So what I want you to understand is that both of these are like operating systems, and they sit in a world where we all are in. So everybody is inside the larger circuit. Nobody is anywhere else. And unless maybe you're an alien, I haven't counted for them yet, but we'll work on that later. So the idea is that if we can give a coordinate to everybody in the world to understand their relationship, not just with the same gender, but with opposite genders. And this is not to do with sexual orientation or any other diversity. It's just looking at this baseline in order to understand where we become blind or in conflict, and we cause our own chaos maybe. So I was looking, I thought, right, if I look at this circuit, I want you to think about this as being, this is masculine. So there's another big M up there. So you can't read my words, but that's masculine, okay? And I'll put it in blue, so hopefully that. So here we've got feminine. And we have words like, we had the words like divine, loving, compassionate, and we do have powerful, but there's lovely words in there which are very coming to that divine feminine. So what I'm saying here is that we're all female, apart from Philip, but in our femaleness is our strength and our togetherness as women, and that our femaleness is part of our biology and our energy as women, and that within that we all have some masculine, feminine energy, and that will display itself in the way we behave with each other and with men and with the world. So one of the greatest things I believe women have brought to work is that we have brought emotional energy to work in a way that men never did over 2 or 3 centuries, maybe millennials. And this is our opportunity to bring emotional integrity, love, compassion, nurturing to a world of men who maybe desire that, but they don't necessarily desire it in the way we see it. Yes. So what I did was I just created a code. So I will just finish this by explaining that if I'm a female and I have a lot of masculine energy and my body shape and my brain pattern comes into that, then I'm a MF. So this was my code because I like codes. Okay. And therefore, when I looked at my sisters, all of you, and some of you will be MFs and some of you will be FFs. And some of you will be somewhere in the middle. So this is not about limiting you, it's about putting you on a grade of females everywhere. And we can all behave with feminine or masculine energy, but what I'm looking at is where is our preference, therefore where are our stress points and maybe where our blocks are. So I'm not saying that us on the screen have got blocks, but I wonder why in a world that needs us to be together with women empower men, we haven't got this right yet. It's a world. So here we have a masculine male, and we have a feminine male. So I'm talking about the feminine-minded male, so I'll give you an example of which I believe in the world would be Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela had a very strong, intuitive, feminine energy, whereas many world leaders, and we're not going to get political, have got very strong masculine male energy. Now we have women in the world who have very strong masculine energy as a female, and some who have feminine energy as a female. And one of the things I believe is that as females, we need to understand this range that we have. And the biggest thing to remember is that we're all female. That's the energy that brings a real synergy to men. So it's a very simple way to understand communication is that some communication is circular and some is very straight line. Some is very boxed and in square, and some is very fluid. And we're trying to bring these two things together to discuss situations in the world where men and women are not currently honoring each other in who we really are. Raise your hand if you are with me at the moment. Yes, good. Another reason for Philip being here is he represents a man, and he is a certain type of man on the map, and he's just going to explain briefly why he is the man who he is. Would you, Philip?
As Pauline told me. So, just to give you a sense of how I understand the map and my particular element within it is in a day-to-day basis, on an average day, I am well connected, I've done lots of personal development, etc., etc. So I'm sensitive to how other people are with me, how I work with other people, how we work together to get things done. And that's also in my private life. So when I'm with family or friends, how we come together, how we decide what we're going to do, how we make decisions about all sorts of other things. But there comes a point where if things aren't starting to go in a direction that I feel is getting us to a solution or is going to produce an outcome, then my energy shifts from this more encompassing, I'd like to be part of the group energy, to I need to get things moving along, I need to take control of what's happening here, and therefore I move more into my masculine male energy, which makes me become more demanding and more dictatorial and more or less able to listen to other people's viewpoints. And from that perspective, it's difficult to look at me and perceive me as an MM initially, because I've worked long and hard to understand behavior and psychology and how to work better with people to enable things to happen in an easy way, rather than I'm in charge, do as I say, this is what I need you to do, go away and do that, which is very much an MM style. is very dictatorial, potentially powerful, but with a capital P. I'm in charge of the power, you are disempowered, therefore. So it becomes more of a positive negative rather than something where we're together. And so the words I use with Pauline for that is it's either or and. And I work towards and. We can do this and this, rather than the approach of I'm in charge, you either do it my way or you leave. So it's useful to understand it, because I argued with Pauline for quite a long time about being an MM, because I perceived myself not as that. But that helps me understand how my energy pushes. And so it's more to do with when an issue becomes either stressful, difficult, or outcomes, and someone mentioned that about men being outcome focused, or outcomes are not being met within the time frame we need them. Quick, easy example, Christmas dinner, when you're in an office and you're working with other people, or you're in a group of trainers and you're looking to organize a Christmas dinner. I'm for the 2 dates, 2 options approach. You choose a date, you choose an option, we do that one. Other people might want to be more friendly about it and offer 5 or 6 dates and 5 or 6 restaurants, which then gives you 36 options. No one is ever going to be totally happy. I'm not the 36 option guy. There's a very brief synopsis of 60 odd years of life.
Thank you, Philip. And in understanding the, if you like, the coding on here, what a very important point about what Philip says is, and our question to you is, how do you act under stress? Because when we're not stressed and we're very enlightened and our consciousness is high, then as females, we glow and we inspire, and all the words we've said, you know, that we are in that space of unity as sisters and divine energy, because we're in a good space together. But when we're under stress, where do you go to? Where's your corner, if you like? So I just want to give you 4 archetypes to help us with these 4 positioning points. It doesn't mean that all of us are always these, but the 2 female archetypes that I've created for this is that the MM, and that's myself, so I identify with it, is a magician, and the FF is a sovereign. So this is 2 different types of energy. One more gathering and looking after our people, that very nurturing energy. And the other one is like, as in the magician in the tarot, this is reaching out into the mind a lot. So when you're under stress, you tend to go outwards, and when you're under stress and sovereign, you go inwards and protective. So you can decide which of those you might do on a point of stress, reactive. And one of the things that there is in this analysis, which we can't go into detail, but there is a body shape analysis around the map of the masculine energy in both men and women tends to create a straighter physique in terms of bone structure. And that's where I discovered, as an image consultant, I saw patterns in the people that I was working with, and that the more angular structured woman who stood very straight was tending to be a business major or in the construction arena or in a masculine energy arena. It was fascinating. Now, life has changed and everybody can do everything now, so those definitions are slightly different. But just to give you that analysis is that the reason for the map is to find out how we work across it, not to stay in our corner. So I want you just to think about it, and you could post it in the chat there, if you only had a choice of the magician or the sovereign, which would you pick? There you are, there's a challenge, but if you could put that in the chat. And Dawn asked there, how does this work with several MMs together when dealing with an issue? When a lot of masculine energy is together, then whether it's female or male, especially if it's male energy, masculine together, it becomes more either or. Let's get the task done, no emotions. So one of the things is understanding, and Tammy said, it depends on the situation. I've been in both. You may be in the middle of the structure. You might be obviously a bit of magician, a bit of sovereign, but I'm just going to be very MF, and I'm going to ask you to make a decision. So just as now is just to think about which one you favor most. Why would I ask that? It's because I want to get a dialogue going with women, understanding how to deal with the masculine energy of men and the feminine energy of men while we're in our masculine and feminine as well. The reason is that we're all out there on the playing field together now. It's not like in the old days when, you know, men went down the mine and they made the money and they came back. And we're now in this amazing technology, entrepreneurial, very, very flexible world where we can come in and make decisions with men equally, differently. Okay, so the reason I'm asking you to pick one is that it gives us a guideline. So if I'm a magician, I'm an MF, but I can be very female sometimes, and I might appear to you to be doing very sovereign things. That's fine too. And I hope it addresses maybe the what Virginia said, which was, what is it we want to be? Because I don't want us all to be the same. I hope that is also something you concur with. I'd like to open it up for some comments. If somebody wants to make a comment, then to just raise your hand, because there's quite a few of you. Virginia. Have I pronounced that right, Virginia?
Yes, perfect. There's no way. Do whatever you want. No. So I love this initial question about how do we women deal with the reality, and you just said it, the playing field or the game is no longer restricted to men, and maybe the issue comes from that, is that in the past, the business world, which is still very much managed and led by men, was their play field, and now there's a new entrant and we don't want to be told what to do. And so I'm fascinated by how do we behave as, and I'm really just asking for myself. Where I've arrived is that, and I've struggled with this female, and I'm a working mom and I love working, and I've had my setback and slap in the face when I was VP marketing, coming into meeting with, you know, being assertive, but being told that I was aggressive. So I'm familiar with all that. Yes. I'm now arriving, and I just had a podcast on how do we rebalance our femininity and masculinity. And I've tried myself to go into several boxes. What kind of woman? How do I fit in? And today I think I've arrived where I don't want to fit in a box. And so when you ask the question, who are you? That imposes on me to put myself in a box. And so I'm right now really having this struggle and trying to see, well, it's like wanting to define what is intelligence or awareness. You can't put that in a box. All you can do is that femininity and masculinity is really more an experience. It's a manifestation of how we behave, more than it's a word. As soon as you put a word on, you know, all the words that you ask us to define ourselves, to me, it puts us in a box. And so I don't have the answers to how do we behave, but I'm sensing that if for a moment I forget that I'm a woman, forgetting that I'm a woman makes me more human. Because if I remind myself of that I'm a woman, then I go back to those previous beliefs, all that conditioning of what a woman should be, whether it's true or not. And so I'm really going into a place where I actually don't want to remember that I'm a woman. I want to remember that I'm a human being.
Okay, I'm going to pause you there because of time, but thank you. Bastianelli, you wanted to say something, and then I'll come back on that.
Yes, yes, it's a very good observation that I hear from you, Virginie. Because I wanted to add the same thing. Pauline, you gave us the options of magician and sovereign, but there's another option going beyond them. And actually, even if you're in a situation of stress or you feel uncomfortable or in an argument, I think the solution is to find that way, to go into that awareness that Virginie was talking about, where you're not man or not a woman, you are a transpersonal being. You are going beyond the personal, so that's the unity and the synergy that we can have. Otherwise, it's not possible, because we will always have conflict, right? If we don't go into that unity. So we need a tool, we need an understanding on how to go there, even when we get triggered in that moment, and operate from that dimension of our being. Otherwise, the fact that we are triggered will always get us into argument, right?
Yes, okay, I'm going to pause you there just because I want to get some other views, but one of the things, I'm not going to restrict you to 2 archetypes. I'm just going to, that's a first stage of a journey to higher enlightenment. And one of the things that's really important, because this came up on the men's group as well, is that there's this human desire at the moment to get beyond what people consider to be a label, but it's a coordinate. It's a starting point to take us to a higher level where, you know, yeah, you can be anything. But how many people understand that at this point? So we're talking about a base level of really being able to create a new narrative, again, with other women, but also with men, about a world which is based on emotions and empathy, which many people, as we know, don't really understand what that is at the moment. So all points here are all valid. So every perception is valid. We are and. Kate, you've got your hand up there.
Hi. Yeah, you know, this is such a wonderful one, because so I've been studying with Pauline for quite a few months now, and you know, we've had a couple of Zooms like this, and I've got an 18-year-old daughter, and we actually ventured out. We're in quarantine. We ventured out today, and I had a conversation with a couple of other ladies who are very different from my character. And on the car ride home, my 18-year-old basically said, hey, you know, Mom, tell me more about the gender dynamics map. And I was a little bit triggered about what you were saying. And I said, well, you know, if you look at it, that Pauline is, I'm sorry, Pauline, I'm just like going to say how old you are. She's 77, right? 71, so coming
71.
Sorry, 71. Oh my God. Sorry, it's like midnight here. Please excuse me. 71. And coming from, you know, this was birthed by you, yeah, and your experiences and what you've seen. And so I feel like this map evolves with me, or someone who's 46, and then with Tatiana, who's 18, with who she is and how people are in this time of the world, you know. And it's so it's really interesting, yeah, to hear all of the other things that you're saying, and how I don't know whether it's our longing to evolve into better human beings and not wanting to be chained down by gender or by certain ways of thinking. That's why we're all together tonight, right? This morning, your time, is we just want to evolve to a higher state of thinking to be able to understand each other. But yeah, this definitely keeps coming up, Pauline, huh?
Yeah, well, it is, and I think maybe we remove the word label. This is a coordinate, a starting point for a conversation. If any of you have got Caroline Meiss's archetype cards, there's 88 of them. So I'm not saying that these are the only 2, but in order to start the journey, and especially when we get to talking with men, if we have 100 archetypes on there, we'll never get the conversation sorted. You see, I'm being very MF. And I'm trying to get a step into. So I wanted to address this, and Philip can answer this as well. And I have a wonderful son who's quite MF, so I know how to manage this. Is one of the issues for us, it's not just understanding each other, but understanding the world where men may not understand the emotional context that we would like to get engaged with, because they at the moment are not enlightened. Now many of them are, that's fine, so we will come across those, but in order to really access a conversation that tunes in, let me take you to another thing which I know you all know. We're visual, auditory or kinesthetic. So if I asked you which of those is your preference, you will have a preference, but you will do all of them. So the same here is that if I'm addressing an MM and maybe he's the boss and I'm in the business and I want to make my point, I don't go up there and have a tantrum and say, you've got to just be more emotional and listen to me. He's not going to listen. So it's validating his standpoint as maybe what I would call a bullet point man, in order to validate him and then to get my point in, as you would do with somebody who was auditory when you're very visual. You would adjust your language. So what we're talking about here, and I honor what you said, Virginia and Bastinella, that we want to be individuals and to be humans, we are. But in the and situation, we also have natural energy which comes into play. So if we put our life forward and create our future together with our imagination, we say none of the past actually exists, we can start again. I still want to be different to a man and be uniquely myself within a range of women. So that's my standpoint when it comes to here. Angela, you were nodding. You and I have talked a lot about this in terms of the corporate woman as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the first one to say, let's not put people in boxes. Although at the same time, that wasn't a box that we created. And so for me, coming from, I want to understand who I am as a woman, and I want to educate my male counterpartner in the workplace on what it means to be a woman, and what are the qualities and what are the differences. It's also reclaiming who we are, because their understanding on who we are is really not who we are. We were fitting that box and we tried to fit that box. I have 25 years in corporate in a high-tech industry, so male dominated. It wasn't my box. I had to fit that box. And so this is the time for me to put things in clear through my awareness of who I am and the value that I bring in.
Yes, thank you. Georgina, let's just have another voice in here. Georgina and then Tammy.
When you said at the beginning about empowerment, we should look at it as being empowerment. I actually feel that that's where we've been, and certainly from my perspective of working with women who have been in a corporate environment. I think that the gender dynamics map has also a time dimension to it, because when you look at women in power, as in, you know, that they have found themselves in executive positions within a corporate environment, they adopt the learned behaviors of masculine attitudes. It's not necessarily true to who they are. And also men have, you know, they have been brought up in a culture of being very masculine, very and there are a lot of men that don't fit into that behavior pattern, and then they find it incredibly stressful. So when you asked about, you know, which corner are we likely to go in, yes, I can absolutely be very masculine in terms of, right, okay, we've got a problem, we've got to sort it out, and I'm not going to put up with this stress, and this is rubbish, and this is not how I want things, and I'll take action. But as I've got older, if something is not resonating with me, I'll actually retreat into my own space and I'll ask myself, what were my triggers? Why was it not resonating with me? And then I'll come back into the situation in a much more empowered place. So I think that we've got to take into consideration where the culture is of a company. Are they, you know, working back in the 80s where women had to wear very big shoulder pads and be imitation men, or whether they've actually evolved on beyond from that.
Yes. Oh, just to give you a quick example, I remember standing up, it was in the 90s. I had a long double-breasted jacket on with very big shoulders and big earrings and big hair, because I had company. And it was a group of men, and they were all sitting down. And the guy who was running at the coffee time said, you know, they're all absolutely scared of you. I said, what? I'm a really friendly person. He said, oh, you're standing up there with those double-breasted thing and the big shoulder pad. And so this is really, for me, this is all about, as we go forward, is understanding energies and the application of energies at the time that they are. So understanding your preferred point only in terms of knowing how to overcome any stress, and then becoming everything that women can bring to the party. I think that's the goal, is that, and I can see here a wonderful range from MF to F to FF. And in fact, when I look at body shapes in the analysis stage, there's about 8 different body shapes we can use for men and only 8 for women and only 3 for men. Men have a much more simple approach to their bodies, to their life, to everything. What I want us to understand is that we have the power in the empowerment bit, but to use it in the best way to create the higher levels of consciousness where we are beyond the arguments. And one of the keys for me is, what is the value of emotion at work? And I talk about life at work. Women have brought life to work. We have brought emotional energy to work over decades now, and men want it. I believe that they do. Would you concur, Philip, as a man?
Yeah, there's lots I could easily say, but yes, I'll stick with her so that you can hear more from the other women who are here.
Yes. So one of the things is that we can carry on for a short while, but we have come to time. So anybody who might need to leave, I honor the hour that we set out. One of the things is, this for me is a starting place for this journey. And I was hoping that we can do this on a regular, whoops. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got hearing aids and they've gone funny. So I'm like in a tunnel. My passion is that we get to know each other. So the next time we meet, we come back with this knowledge and the challenges that we have. The map is like having a new GPS. So going back to, I think, Virginia, you said originally, and I know Michelle said that you felt you were a magician and now you're a sovereign. That's okay, we're journeying round. The idea is that the template of the world is now the bigger circuit. So when we start discussing issues around age, generation, about culture, about LBGT, about color, about anything that we want to discuss in a magical conversation, what we understand is how these characters come to conversation. Because not everybody comes to conversation in the same way. So if a magical conversation is a space in which we have no judgment, how do we deal with people who are naturally judgmental? Because we also want their point of view. It's about learning about each other, even though we're in crisis and some people are panicking. I believe we've got to have a deeper understanding, going back to Virginia's point, of knowing who we are, knowing that the fantasticness that's not the right word, but the growth that women can have as half of the world. Because I don't think we're pulling together yet. We've got wise women here, but if we look out on the 85% of the world who are disengaged, we've got a lot of work to do. So,
if I can
as
add
I said,
one thing, Pauline,
yes.
Although I'm not a big fan of adding even more label, I think it's essential to go within. And, now
Yes.
people talk about inward leadership. And I think that's what you're offering, is a better understanding of ourselves. What I found a little bit ironic is that in our nature, women always want to improve things, number one.
Oh, yes.
And we keep doing this. But the second is we've always had, since mankind was existed, we always had power. And I'm always fascinating, and I still quite don't understand, is how come we lost that power? There's no victim. We accepted this domination, this play. And, you know, I'm exploring non-duality, which looks at the world instead of black and white, just as what is. It's fascinating. I think now we're waking up.
Yes.
But in this waking up, I think it's easy to go and want to fix man instead of saying, well, they are who they are. Why don't we just accept?
Yes, and I think that's a really good point. And in the research I did interviewing men, they all said, when I asked them, what advice would you give men? What advice would you give women about men? So you can watch those interviews. But they all said, our advice to women about men is just let us be who we are. Don't try and change us. We want to be good. We want to be with you. We want to understand what's going on. And I generally think that's true of everybody. We've got to a place now where we can do that. This is part of the knowledge. So I call it gender dynamics intelligence. And the dynamics is a very important part of this. The dynamics in any situation. You go into a room, you've got a room full of people. Are you managing all the different aspects, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, FF, whatever it is, old, young? Our ability to be in that higher consciousness will help us to develop the magical conversations which will solve the big issues of the world. I would like to encourage you to put your details into the chat line so that everybody has everybody's details. And I would like to invite you to return in a few weeks' time. If this is our slot on a Monday, 8 a.m. PDT, because I want to engage the UK, I want to engage the US, and I know it's late for Manila and Kuala Lumpur, but I have a lot of connections there of women who are really looking at how do we create this really real synergy conversation. And the new narrative is different. So this map is a baseline. You can imagine it's like a PC and a Mac. Baseline operating patterns, men in the square, very either or, yes, no, get things done. Women, we get things done, but in a circular motion. The two together make the universe. Everything in our universe is made of squares, circles, straight lines and curves. Or any of you are designers, you know that. How do we blend straight line conversations that maybe the MM does when he's being bullet point with the circular conversations we have with our children and our nurturing ability? I want you to think about that, and then when we come back we can share more knowing this baseline. Is that okay with everybody? Because we are wisdom here personified, and therefore we need to understand each other. But I want to take these messages out with the men as well from last week. So the men will come back again on their own, you come back on your own, and then we start the conversation together. My vision is that we can understand differences. So the byline for this at the end is we bring knowledge, experience, and imagination together. Knowledge is what you know of all your life, me at 71, not 77. And your experience is how your life has been for you. But our imagination is what will take us into a much more glorious partnership with all women and all men across the world. That's my vision, and I would really love you to be part of that. And I'm absolutely blessed that you've all come today. So is there anybody who would like to say something else? We are over time, so this is on your time. There's
can I just say, because patriarchy's been, you know, systemic for centuries and centuries, I mean, yes. No one, it's not going to change in a day, and it's a recent revelation. I think even the whole consciousness movement and the fact of being present when you're triggered, you know, to drop into presence before you react. I mean, this is a whole new learning for humanity. And I'm thankful that I can see some changes in the men that I have connection with and work with. So, you know, I think we have to be patient. But I do agree with everything you were saying. We can't let women not be women, which is what we try to do. I know, just always be the magician. It hasn't got us anywhere. We've got to have this balance and be able to flex between our masculine and feminine. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you. I do believe that the world is ready for this. With COVID, it's a mixed blessing, but that's the choices we have now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Pauline. Nice to meet everyone. Good
yes,
night.
and
Good night. Nice to meet you all.
I will send the recording out, and then we'll do another date. And think about your ideas for next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye now.
Bye, Philip.
Bye, Philip. Bye, Pauline.
Bye, Pauline.
Bye, Dawn. Thank you so much for coming.
Bye, Pauline.
You're welcome. See you next time.
Will do.